Calling the zoning hearing board for Lower Makefield Township for June 4th, 2024 to order. We have a full house here tonight. Unfortunately, we have two appeals that are going to go pretty quickly right now. First up, Appeal Z24-10 is not in attendance.
Yeah, so I did speak to him last week. He thought the meeting was Wednesday. I told him it was Tuesday, not Wednesday. And I emailed him earlier today just to make sure, and I just got an email for him that he's just seeing the email, and that unfortunately has his daughter's graduation dinner, and he apologizes for that, and he can be at the next meeting, which would be June 18th.
How many things do we have for the next meeting? Just out of curiosity.
For that meeting on the 18th, we have a continuance for the pool, I believe it was, that you asked them to scale some stuff back on it. You have the other continuance
There'll be the two
the one
for the
with
night.
the drawing that was subpar.
Yeah.
They've since done another drawing, and we've advertised that because the amount of the relief changed a little bit. And then there are two new applications. There's one for a little bit of a concrete patio where they're proposing a rain garden as mitigation, and another one where they're proposing, I think, like 49% impervious surface, which may take a little bit. So I think a couple of them can be gone through pretty quickly, and one will maybe take a little while.
But it doesn't sound like anything that's truly going to cause a massive public outcry, I suspect.
I was just wondering, time-wise, for our time limits.
Yeah, I think you'll have enough time to process through. Three of them you will have seen previously, so it's just two new ones, one of which may take a little while, but the other one isn't too difficult.
All right. Make a motion to continue Appeal Z24-10 to June 18th. And there's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up is Appeal Z23-34, who communicated sufficiently prior to the meeting. Adam?
Yeah, this one, they want to work on a couple things. So that one, they told us with plenty of time to spare that they'd also like to be heard at the June 18th meeting.
And ironically, they actually called me today just to make sure that they didn't have to show up, even though they requested the continuance. So good for them.
I don't have the number of the appeal in front of me.
I'll make a
Thank you.
motion to continue Appeal Z2334 to June 18th.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that one is Appeal Z23-34 is continued to June 18th. We have already talked through a couple times now the expected agenda for the 18th meeting. Is there any other business? Any update on notifications for neighbors?
I knew where you, actually, you may have some insight on this, but I do, in speaking with the chair about future agendas, we should be seeing that sometime either this month or next month on the Board of Supervisors agenda, where we'll take up the notifications.
And I can confirm that. We will. We're in the process of revising all the necessary language, and it will be before the board. Not tomorrow, possibly this next meeting. If not then in July, at the very latest.
So if you're keeping track, that's June 19th. Our July 3rd meeting for the Board of Supervisors is canceled. So plus July 17th, either June 19th or July 17th would be when we take that up.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, anybody else have any questions? Concerns, topics?
Dan, are you going to be seeking feedback from the board in regard to who gets mailed and who doesn't, or is the Board of Supervisors just going to unilaterally make that decision?
We appreciate any feedback we can get from the board, from the zoning hearing board and from staff. And we'll take that into consideration.
I guess that's not exactly a fair question. I'm asking you to speak for the whole Board of Supervisors.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to do that.
That's perfectly fine. But no, we our ears are open, and we will consider some guidance. We have done previously feedback, on the Saldo a few years back. We recognized that notifications needed to be improved and expanded. That's generally the approach, what we're thinking now. But very much open to your thoughts on how to address notifications for both. There may be different scenarios for residents appealing, with their appeals versus developers for an appeal. Different scenarios there that we could consider, albeit being under the being legal, as per our solicitor. So open to any and all suggestions. I think I can say that on behalf of the whole board.
Matt and Mike, and I think Matt's had many years of experience with this board and has now seen the larger radius and the no radius. So do you have an opinion?
I think what worked well was the 200-foot radius.
Yeah, that's a problem.
But yeah, the no radius doesn't work. I can tell you that.
I think feedback that would really make sense I don't know that we have to bifurcate it between homeowners and developers, but I think bifurcating it between properties located in flood zones versus non-flood zone properties, that might make a difference, where we may want to expand the mailing list to a little further out. I don't know what legally permissible is, but maybe to the maximum of what legally permissible is for properties in flood zones.
What about commercial that's very close to or in residential?
Well, I think the 250 feet
Feet
covers
covers
an
that
awful
way.
lot.
It
I
does.
do see Jim's point here, though, that the ones that are in flood zones do tend to
Yes.
trigger a lot more public interest.
They also affect more homes than when it's not a flood zone. It's just pretty simple.
I think our old practice was 300 feet, Jim, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
That's correct. And I know at the board meeting, I know they talked about having two separate ones, one for a dimensional variance such as a setback or impervious surface, having the smaller radius. But if you had a use variance where, that would trigger a larger radius.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, we rarely get a use variance, but it does make sense.
Yeah, because those have the potential to have a greater impact. Not that they necessarily do, but they do have that potential.
Yeah, but like if we've just seen in one of these, well, one of the ones that was potentially going to come up tonight, the neighbors across the street who would be staring straight at the addition weren't in the range.
Right, that's
So,
why I think that the people across the street, maybe directly and
So-
two others, would be more.
200 feet then, maybe? The board seems to be kind of heading to that sort of
I
radius.
can pass. Now, one thing, one of the comments that was made was to the maximum allowable. Really, we're setting a minimum. We're not really, it's still at the discretion of the township to go over and above on any given application, to go over and above when it comes to notifications if we see, if we see there's a good reason for it. So it's really just setting a minimum baseline that encompasses as many folks as we can within a reasonable limit. And then for specific proposals, if it's not written into the ordinance, then we can still make the call, hey, we want to go up to 300 feet. We might, maybe something else, we want to go up to 500 feet for some reason, whatever it is. We can still maintain that option.
It from past experience, it seems that the people that are within 200 or so feet are the ones that are usually ending up at meeting. and they kind of have a lot of good input on it, and I think the board listens to that group of people. I'm a little hesitant to go, crazy on the notifications, because we start getting people who have absolutely no impact, or are not being impacted on it whatsoever, show up at some of these meetings. And I'd really like to hear from the immediate abutters, those that are going to be walking by or seeing this, whatever variance is being requested, and give them more focus in our meetings
Yeah.
than somebody who lives on the other side of town who just has an opinion.
Yeah, and to respond, I think, I work in land development over the last 25 years. A lot of other jurisdictions use 200 feet or something similar to 200 feet for exactly that reason, for public notices, for a variety of things. So I think that stood the test of time.
I would agree.
But then again, there are instances when there are use variances where it's a fundamental change in use. Big commercial development, let's say, wants to go somewhere. That could affect people around the town where we might want to increase for some reason. Because then one of the issues that comes up, right, if there's a use variance, then a lot of folks feel that the one opportunity to have a say in that use variance is with the zoning hearing board, because once the zoning hearing board approves the use variance, then it's full steam ahead, usually with planning commission and things like that through the saldo, and they want to have their initial say with the zoning hearing board. Now, use variances, we don't get a lot of them, and we don't anticipate a lot of them, so that's why there may be some instances that are outside of the norm, or maybe we want to go a little bit more. But for all intents and purposes, my personal opinion as a member of the board that looks at this, I think 200 feet is a reasonable number, plus or minus, you know what I mean? So I think I'm personally in agreement with everything y'all are saying.
I think 200 feet does make sense, listening to everybody talk. Not to mention, I really don't want to have an onerous advertising bill for people who are making zoning board appeals, so.
Yeah, agreed, yeah. That's been part of the board's discussion as well.
Yeah, well, that's how it ended up getting cut to zero, wasn't it?
So, but no, I appreciate all the feedback. It's super helpful, and when that goes before the board, I can obviously share that as part of my supervisor report, part of the discussion. And obviously, we provide notification for the Board of Supervisors meeting, so if anybody, and you'll be there as well, but if anyone would like to address the board at that time, please feel free. Or if you want to, I don't know, this board often writes letters of recommendation similar to other advisory boards, but you could do that as well if you'd like, I think. Either way, we appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, you could certainly have a motion to make it official. I could confirm that in a letter to the board, stating what our board's position is on what any future ordinance would be, and then the board of supervisors could certainly take that into consideration when deciding what they want to do with the ordinance.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the notification for appeals is a 200-foot radius, 200-foot distance from the edge of the property, and for use variances that it's 400 feet.
I'll second that.
I agree.
Any discussion?
No, I think it would be a good idea if our board members, the supervisors, get a copy of tonight's minutes for that vote.
I agree with that. I think it's good.
And I'll confirm it in a letter to the board as well, so they have that.
Yeah. And just from a process perspective, in terms of how the Board of Supervisors runs, as the liaison, I give a supervisor's report as part of every meeting. So I can provide that as a summary as part of my supervisor report at tomorrow night's meeting, because we have a meeting tomorrow. but I can also provide that feedback as well as our solicitor here, who is drafting the ordinance and is taking great notes right now. We can also provide that type of feedback along with the official letter from your solicitor as well.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. And Adam's going to write a letter. All right, anything else?
Nothing from me.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn
And
tonight's
I'll
meeting.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, go enjoy the summer.